Hello, good evening. Welcome to Wednesday's North West Tonight. Thank you for your company this evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Our top story. The Kirkham baby breakthrough. 14 years after an infant boy's body was found, police identify his dad. They've now renewed their appeal for information about what happened. Also tonight, as government changes to the benefits system sink in, what's the view in the town where 1 in 5 working-age people gets disability payments? Living with long COVID. 5 years after the first lockdown, one survivor tells us he's lucky to be alive.
Sometimes I do feel angry at what has happened to me. And then I think of those people who didn't make it. And I tell myself, you're the lucky one.
How a herd of Exmoor ponies are leading the charge to rewild and regenerate some disused farmland.
Well, it's been gorgeous sunshine today and we're spoilt. We're going to get more tomorrow and temperatures are on the rise. Join me at the end of the programme. I'll have the full forecast.
"14 years after the body of a baby boy was found in a Lancashire stream, the police have traced the child's father, but still said today that they still don't know who his mother is. The case shocked the community in Kirkham near Blackpool in 2011. They raised the money to give the baby a funeral and for a headstone in the village churchyard. But while DNA breakthroughs led police to the baby's dad, they still need help to find his mum, as Kelly Foran reports.
A tiny blue coffin for a newborn baby. Almost 14 years later, in that graveyard where his funeral was held, there's still no name, just baby boy.
He was found in this book, sadly, and we've never been able to give him an identity or find out why he came to be in this book. So I now have a dedicated team who are reviewing any cases that are unresolved within Lancashire, and this is one of our priority cases to try and resolve.
The only clues at the time were the clothes he was wearing. The police even appealed on Crime Watch.
Let's get a little more on that sad case of a baby's body found in Lancashire. Neil is in charge of
But what happened to him was, and still is, a mystery.
Did you have concerns back then for one of your friends? Were you a health professional who knew somebody was pregnant but don't know what happened? Anything small. The passage of time now means allegiances have changed and we're really striving to find out, to give this little boy an identity and find out why he landed here.
The baby's father was traced last year through DNA and now the police are directly appealing to the baby's mother.
You might not have wanted to come forward back then, but with the passage of time, it will feel right to do so now. Our specially trained officers will be there to support you.
People who lived in the area didn't want him to be alone. They paid for and went to his funeral. They left teddies at the time and still do today.
You can see that Kirkham is a sleepy village. It obviously would have had a huge impact on the people of this village back in 2011. It's a horrendous and tragic case to find a baby in such a circumstance, and I think it's probably stayed with everyone. I know it's stayed with my colleagues within Lancashire Police who worked on the original investigation.
The discovery in this stream left the police with many questions, and they're now hoping to finally find out who baby boy really is. Kelly Foran, BBC North West Tonight.
The chair of the Thirlwall inquiry says that it will not be stopped. It's been coming to an end after 6 months looking into the baby murders carried out by Lucy Letby at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Lawyers for the former hospital bosses and for Letby herself wanted it stopped, arguing that her convictions might be unsafe. But Lady Justice Thirlwall continued her closing statement today. Andy Gill is at Liverpool Town Hall for us, where it's taking place. And Andy, as we reported over the last couple of nights, there were arguments both for and against halting it.
That's right, Roger. Lawyers for both Lucy Letby herself and former managers at the Countess of Chester said that the inquiry should be paused because they say there's a realistic possibility that her convictions should be overturned. That's because of doubts in some quarters over statistical evidence at Lucy Letby's trial and because an international panel of child health experts working with Lucy Letby's defence said they'd found no evidence of murders and the babies probably died of natural causes or because of poor medical care. They said this inquiry should be paused until the Criminal Cases Review Commission had looked at this new material. On the other hand, the lawyers for the families of Lucy Letby's victims said it should not be paused. They accused Letby of trying to control the narrative and accused the former bosses at the hospital of living in an alternative reality where no murders took place. It was also pointed out that any delay in the recommendations from this inquiry would run against one of its central functions, that is to prevent future harm of babies.
So, Andy, why did the chair of the inquiry decide not to pause it?
Well, Lady Justice Thirlwall said that the current situation is not unfair. We don't know how long the Criminal Cases Review Commission will take to look at this new material. And the chairman said it was not her job to examine what Lucy Letby did, but to examine what other people did or didn't do. She also said that the inquiry has heard important concessions.
Perhaps principal and most obvious amongst the concessions made by just about everyone is the acknowledgement that there was a total failure of safeguarding at every level, and that will not change.
So the Thirlwall inquiry will not be paused. It has, however, heard all the evidence, all the legal submissions it's going to hear. The chairman and her team will now go away and write their report and recommendations. They're expected in the autumn. It's inevitable that some people who were working at the Countess of Chester at that time will face criticism. Roger.
Andy, thank you very much. Andy Gill there at Liverpool Town Hall. Now, a 70-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of murdering an 84-year-old man who was known to her at a house in Bury. He was found dead at his home at Butterstile Lane in Prestwich 6 days ago, having suffered suspicious injuries. The woman was detained last night. Police say they don't yet know if they were a married couple. A listeria outbreak thought to have caused the deaths of at least 3 elderly hospital patients could be linked to a firm based in Ramsbottom. The bacteria has been matched with that found in 2 types of mousse supplied by Cool Delight Desserts. They usually contain permitted levels of listeria, not considered harmful to healthy people. The NHS has been told to stop giving patients the desserts, which are not available on general sale. More than 300 jobs could be lost in Wirral after the company, which makes Cheerios and Shreddies, announced plans to shut its factory. Cereal Partners UK and Ireland says that demand for breakfast cereals is declining. It wants to move production from Bromborough to Wiltshire to focus solely on branded products rather than supermarket-owned brands. A prisoner from Blackpool who was on the way to court charged with assaulting a police officer has escaped from a prison van after overpowering the guards. GEO Amy, the company transporting Jamie Cooper, says that he claimed to be undergoing a medical emergency before his escape. Police are appealing for information about where the 33-year-old is, but have warned people not to approach him. A Merseyside MP has called on the Prime Minister to back a campaign for the hit TV drama Adolescence, which we talked about on yesterday's programme, to be shown in schools. It's co-written by the Knowsley actor Stephen Graham and follows a 13-year-old boy who was arrested for the murder of a schoolgirl. The local MP, Annalise Midgley, says that showing it would help to combat toxic misogyny among teenage boys.
At home, we are watching Adolescence with our children. I've got a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, and it's a very, very good documentary to watch, or drama. This violence carried out by young men, influenced by what they see online, is a real problem. It's abhorrent, and we have to tackle it.
Now, yesterday in the Commons, the government set out the changes that it intends to make to the benefits system, which it says should save £5 billion by 2030. Now, the government argues the changes are needed because almost 4 million working-age people in England and Wales claim health-related benefits. That's 1 million more than before COVID. So the plan is to tighten the eligibility criteria for personal independence payments, PIPs, as they're known, for people with long-term conditions. However, those with the most severe long-term problems would no longer be reassessed. In addition, incapacity benefits will be frozen for existing claimants at £97 per week from April next year, and they won't be increased in line with inflation until 2029. The amount for new claimants, though, will be reduced by almost half to £50 per week. Now, analysis shows that the number of claimants has grown fastest in the areas that already had a large number of them. Blackpool is one of those, where 1 in 5 working-age adults now claims disability benefits. One of the town's Labour MPs says that he will not vote for anything that makes those people poorer. Lindsay Prosser has been there today.
Blackpool Tower, a symbol of the town's Victorian heyday. A short distance away is Revo Ward, an area of high unemployment and deprivation. At the Community Job Club, changes to benefits have caused concern and anger.
The proposed changes, to me, it's crazy. It's hard enough now.
John has a number of health issues and receives PIP, Personal Independence Payment. His job coach couldn't find a firm who'd take him on. John believes all employers should be encouraged and given support to employ disabled people.
I would say a majority of people would prefer to be working if they could find a job. It comes down to having to teach all the employers have got to learn how to deal with the disabled people.
Job coaches here say the government needs to adopt a more flexible approach when encouraging people into employment and highlight the case of one of today's clients.
He's another classic one. He's got 2 jobs. The job centre don't like it because they say, no, you're not doing enough work with your 2 jobs. Give up those 2 jobs and get another possible job where you're working full time. But he's 62. What are the odds that he's going to get a full-time job?
Those looking for work will have the right to try a job, and the government says claimants won't be penalised if that job doesn't work out. It'll be harder to claim PIP, the key disability payment. Critics say this will force more people into poverty.
As a coastal community, we've been forgotten about for far too long. We don't have the jobs that are needed to get people back into work, but also the mental health barriers. We know there's people on waiting lists for 18 months to 2 years for mental health support. That's a huge barrier for our young people.
The government is merging job seekers and employment seekers allowance. It'll be a larger payment available for a shorter period of time. It says the changes will support and encourage people into work.
They have to tell you what they're going to change.
Zaida Ali's son has learning difficulties and autism. She says he wants to work, but fears the changes are being introduced without consultation.
In layman's terms, right, I'm going to stab you, and they stood behind you. You don't know what they're going to stab you with, a pencil, a fork, a knife, what? They're not going to tell you what they're going to attack you with, because this is an attack. Any sort of change is an attack. Be on your guard.
Lindsay Prosser, BBC North West Tonight, Blackpool.
Now, staying with health matters, because this week we're marking 5 years since the first COVID lockdown, and there have been lasting effects for many people, not least those with long COVID, and it's thought there are just under 2 million of them across England. Essie Hansadeh spent 7 months in hospital after contracting COVID-19 in 2020. I first interviewed him in 2021, and as I found out when I went to see him yesterday, the ongoing impact of it has changed his life.
I am not a mourner. I could sit and moan about this and that and whatever, everything's going on, but there's no point. There's very little you can do when over 80% of your lungs are gone.
Essie spent 5 months of 2020 in a coma on a ventilator with COVID-19. When he left Wythenshawe Hospital in South Manchester, staff gave him a guard of honour. Almost 5 years later, COVID's lasting effects mean he can only leave home for short periods.
One of my biggest enemies is cold weather. The colder it is, my concentrator has to go to be set higher, and that would give me maximum 3 hours. Planning a whole day out with your family and friends, I can never do that.
Oxygen tubes reach every part of the 63-year-old's house. His breathing requires constant support. Would you describe it as existing rather than living?
You know, I never thought of it that way. I do what I can when I can. A lot of activities which I used to love, I can't do anymore.
I first met Essie exactly 4 years ago for the first anniversary of the COVID lockdown.
Somebody told me at the beginning, I said, I have got my good days and I have got my bad days. He said, wrong, never say that. Always say there are good days and there are better days. So today is a good day.
The former property manager relies on personal independence payments and universal credit. His future, fighting for every breath, seems tough.
Personally, I know I can feel my lungs have got worse. I can feel it.
Are you scared?
No.
No problem. We edited many of Essie's answers in this interview. Now watch him, as I tell you that he sleeps no more than a few hours at a time sitting up, because lying down makes breathing even harder. It's taken this long to catch his breath to speak.
Sometimes I do feel angry at what has happened to me and ask why. And then I think of those people who didn't make it, and those people who still need 24/7 care because of it. And I tell myself, you're the lucky one.
I wish Essie all the very best, of course. The hiss you could hear all the way through, obviously, was the oxygen going through, and he's very softly spoken. I hope you picked everything up. Somebody very kindly did email Helen to say that it sounded like, on the subtitles, they said, but then, I never think about the people who didn't make it. Clearly, if you heard it, Essie said, but then I think about the people who didn't make it. He feels very lucky to be alive. Tomorrow we're going to hear from some of the families who say they still want answers about how decisions were made that led to their loved ones losing their lives. Now, a bit of change of theme. Liverpool's DaDaFest celebrates the creativity of disabled artists across the region. This year it's got something else to celebrate as well. It's its 40th anniversary. And all this month there are events and displays across the city. The theme this year is rage, and that's to represent the sense of inequality that many disabled people can still feel. As Phil Chapman reports.
The 40th anniversary of Liverpool's DaDaFest got off to a stunning start with a huge projection onto the city's Cunard building by deaf artist Kathy Marger.
It's really amazing that they recognise the importance of showing deaf culture and sign language to the world in a way that it's really significant on this beautiful building here in Liverpool.
As well as visual art, there'll be poetry readings, disability art workshops and dance events at various venues across the city. At the launch event, the amazing work of Liverpool choreographer Lisa Simpson was celebrated. Despite being quadriplegic, she continues to inspire dancers and the wider disabled community.
I am speaking to you through my translator. The Simpson board is my creative voice. It's my means of communication.
I'm Lisa's husband, and Lisa has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and no verbal communication, and uses this letterboard to spell out whatever she wants to say. A, N, and O. Opportunity for disabled artists to show what they can do. Lisa is a choreographer and a workshop leader, and probably the only non-verbal choreographer in the world.
The theme of this year's festival is rage, to represent the feelings of many disabled people who say they face a continued uphill battle for equality and inclusion.
Expectations start very low, and an unwillingness to recognise the, just the wonders that people can produce.
I've got cerebral palsy. I work at as hard as I can not to show it, but of course the older you get, the harder these things are becoming.
we're progressing really far. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of brilliant activism that's been happening, but we've still got a long way to go.
Actually bringing people together and having a space to chat, to share, to platform each other's work, and to think about new collaborations and how we can move the work forward, really.
And the 40th DaDaFest continues throughout the city until the end of March. Phil Chapman, BBC North West Tonight, Liverpool.
Right, we're going to talk about football of more than one kind now, because the Hollywood actors Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have made Wrexham famous around the world. The 7-time Super Bowl winner Tom Brady has bought into Birmingham City, and Burnley have their own American superstar investor. You might know him. He's the NFL football star JJ Watt. He's been quietly soaking up life at Turf Moor. He's gone to a match with the fans. He's lifted weights with the players. I suspect he held his own. And he's done business in the boardroom as well. He's also been sharing his love for proper football with Mark Chapman on the BBC's Football Daily podcast.
I come from a middle-class family. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor. We had it well. And then obviously I'm very fortunate to have made a whole lot of money playing a game. And so as you go, there's plenty of people with advice on what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. Became really interested in English football, and then I started poking around different teams, having conversations, and a path that eventually led me here to Burnley. You look at an American football club, you know, right now they're all valued in the billions of dollars.
Well, Washington was the last one to go, that was
$6.05 billion.
Yeah.
So you take my amount of money and you put it into that, and congratulations, you have one seat at a game, not at the board table, not at anything. I would say that's certainly the thing that I bring to the board and to this organization that nobody else can, is what it's like to be in a locker room, what it's like to be in a competition, what it's like to be at this point in the season and fighting for things. Just yesterday, I was at the training ground most of the day and having breakfast with players, in the locker room with the players, in the weight room with the players, because I can sit down and have a conversation with a player, whether he's going through a rough stretch, and I can talk to him about that rough stretch. You have to remember, these are 22, 23, 24-year-old kids. They're going through all this for the first time. I'm fortunate enough to have been through this before, and so I can talk to them, like, how do you mentally handle that? I know what you're feeling. Or we're going through a great stretch and we need to keep it going and we can't get complacent. These conversations to me are the most value that I can bring to the club. I love the passion, and I love what it means. I think that's the whole reason I got into it in the first place, and that's what makes me so drawn to it.
That's JJ Watt, 6'5" and absolutely massive. Mark Chapman's a 6-footer. He dwarfed him, didn't he? You can hear the full interview tonight at 10 o'clock on BBC Radio 5 Live. Find it anytime you want afterwards on BBC Sounds on the Football Daily podcast. On the pitch tonight, Manchester City women take on Chelsea in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final, just 4 days after they were beaten by the Londoners in the League Cup final. City with home advantage tonight then at the Joy Stadium. A herd of Exmoor ponies has taken up residence on the moors above Bolton, all part of a plan to rewild and regenerate disused farmland. But it will also help businesses to hit their green targets, as Isabel Fry has been finding out.
Bolton may not be a place you expect to come across a herd of ponies, but on this farm, they're hard at work.
So we've got the Exmoor ponies here, which are helping to manage the soft rush, and eventually we'll have some different grasses going on here. It's all part of a big scheme where we've got some new ponds going in, some ditch work.
These beautiful Exmoor ponies are going to eat the soft rush here, trample on the ground to make sure more wildflowers can grow back and species come back to the area. And they're already hard at work doing their jobs.
We've brought them in to kind of tackle soft rush, which has become dominant on this site and is crowding out other species. So we've kind of got the Exmoor ponies. They're kind of eating the new growth. They're doing a fantastic job in creating different kind of habitats.
So this is the problem area that we're trying to sort, really?
Yeah, this is the soft rush. You'll see all over Greater Manchester and the West Pennines, this soft rush is dominated everywhere, and it's very difficult to get rid of. But the Exmoor ponies are perfect species for eating this. They love it at this time of year. It's nice and sweet when it goes green here. So we're trying to manage it with them instead of using chemical intervention. They seem to be enjoying life up here. They're nibbling the rushes, skipping around, a bit nice and happy, so they're a great addition to our farm. It's the first time we've ever had anything other than cows on the farm, so yeah, I've really taken to them.
But why do we need this?
We're quite a species depleted country, and we're kind of trying to increase these areas of wild habitats so that we can get more birds and waders and more habitats for those kinds of things in.
This scheme is run by Environment Bank, a company which sells parts of land to developers to offset their environmental impacts. It also offers some security to farmers.
Farming is a difficult industry, especially at the moment. There's a lot of upheaval, a lot of change. The weather's only getting worse. So we provide a stable income for them. A lot of farmers are also very environmentally minded and they want to turn the clock back and do the right thing.
And Farmer Richard is very happy with his new workers.
Lots of other different ground nesting birds are in this area, and hopefully with what we're doing, what the ponies are doing, hopefully we'll be able to keep them here for a much longer time.
And with the ponies hard at work, it's now time to sit back and watch the wildlife return. Isabel Fry, BBC North West Tonight, Bolton.
It was a nice day for them today. It's not always going to be that blue skies on the moors, I suspect. Molly, glorious day.
Lovely day. And the good news is for the ponies, there's more tomorrow. But more about that in a moment, because it was a bit of a chilly start for many today. You can see some frost there in Wigan. But, as Roger mentioned, beautiful blue skies for many of us today, around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius as an average. Thank you very much for sending your photos in. If you'd like to send your own in, you can do, or you can send them to me on socials and become a weather watcher. Now, how's it looking for tomorrow? Well, it's going to be another mild day. In fact, it is going to be the mildest day of the week this week. In fact, it's going to be around 18 degrees Celsius. You can see my graphics seem to be a little bit stuck there, but I'm going to continue anyway, because the main takeaway really is the fact it's going to be 18 degrees Celsius. We're going to draw in that southerly air. Overnight, though, it is going to be a chilly night. So whereas in the day it's going to be lovely, it's going to be cold. It's not going to be as cold tomorrow. It's going to stay dry, fine. Temperatures around 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. So there is going to be a touch of ground frost in some spots, in more rural spots. But for most of us, it's going to be decent. And then tomorrow morning, it is going to be a chilly start, but those temperatures are going to climb pretty quickly. As I say, looking at around 18 degrees Celsius. So a sunny day, looking like it's going to be more hazy sunshine. As you can see, they've reappeared. I tell you what, Roger, this is a cursed dress, because last time I wore this, the same thing happened. I'm starting to think I might
Do you want to carry on? How long
I could just carry on.
Tell us how long we've got and we'll work it out.
Well, 40 seconds.
Carry on for a bit
I'm being
longer.
told I've got 40 seconds. So, yeah, as you can see, a cold night. Tomorrow, though, the main takeaway of this very chaotic forecast is it's going to be hazy sunshine and plenty of warm weather. It's going to feel lovely in the sun, 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. You can see a bit cooler on the Isle of Man as well. And then, as we head to the weekend, typically unsettled weather. We're going to see a bit more in the way of rain. And Friday, another pleasant day. But for now, let's concentrate on the positive.
Absolutely.
Sunshine.
Crewdson puts gremlins in your computer.
I tell you what,
happened.
OK, I'm having words.
Have a lovely evening. Thanks for watching. Well done, Molly.